Let's be brutally honest, you know. Every time you turn on the news, what do you see? Another tragedy on the streets of London, another family torn apart by senseless violence. Sadiq Khan has been the mayor of London since 2016. The question on everyone's lips is simple. Has he made our capital city safer, or has it spiraled into a hotbed of crime under his watch? The answer is not the rosy picture City Hall paints. It's a complex, deeply worrying situation that needs a closer look. We are told one thing, but we see another. The spin doctors will throw endless numbers at you. They will try to confuse you. They'll tell you to look over here, not over there. But Londoners are not fools. They feel the change in the air. They worry about their children walking home from school. They hesitate before getting on the tube late at night. Now let's hear the official story. The one peddled by the mayor's office. According to them, things are getting better. They point to specific successes with a great deal of pride. They tell us that violent crime resulting in an injury has fallen. In fact, they claim it's down in every single London borough. The Mayor's Office for Policing and Crime produced figures showing a drop of nearly 12%. That's 8,749 fewer people getting hurt in a year. On the surface, that sounds like a victory. But is it the whole story? Of course not. The good news tour doesn't stop there. City Hall is very keen to tell you that homicides are at a 10-year low. They go even further. They claim London's homicide rate is now lower than in Paris, Brussels, Berlin. This is the central pillar of their argument. It's the statistic they roll out whenever their record is challenged. They want you to believe that London is a beacon of safety compared to its European neighbours. They paint a picture of a city on the mend, a city where the most serious crimes are finally under control. But this is a carefully curated highlight reel. Even the Office for National Statistics offers some data that supports this narrative. One of their reports showed that the rate of violence against the person was lower in London than the average for the rest of England and Wales. The figures were 28.4 per 1,000 in the capital versus 35.0 elsewhere. This is the kind of statistic that gets brandished as proof that the fear of crime in London is overblown, proof that actually you are safer in the capital than in many other parts of the country. It's a comforting thought, but comfort and truth are often two very different things. So, we have a clear narrative from the top. Key crimes are down. Homicides are at a historic low. Violent injuries are falling across the board. The Mayor's Office presents this as a job well done. They want you to feel reassured. They want you to believe their policies are working and that the tide has turned against the criminals. But what happens when you look beyond these carefully selected figures? What happens when you look at the crimes they are less eager to talk about? That is when a very different and far more disturbing picture begins to emerge. It's a picture of a city still very much in crisis. Let's pull back the curtain. Let's look at the numbers the spin doctors hope you'll miss. While they celebrate falling homicides, other crimes have been exploding. Let's start with knife crime. It is a scourge on our city. New figures show knife crime offences rocketed to around 15,000 in 2023-24. That's up from just under 12,800 the year before. This is the highest level we've seen in years. Let that sink in. While the mayor talks about success, knife-related offences are soaring. How can this be called progress? It is an abject failure to protect our young people, and it gets worse. Sexual offences have surged. This is a horrifying trend. Police recorded nearly 27,000 sexual offences in 2024-25. That's an increase of thousands from the previous year. Within that number is a truly shocking statistic. More than 8,800 rapes were reported to the Metropolitan Police in 2023. That's an average of 24 women and girls being attacked every single day in our capital city. These are not just numbers on a spreadsheet. These are lives shattered. The story of rising crime continues with theft. The statistics are staggering. One report highlighted that theft from the person has exploded by an incredible 207% since 2015. Think about that. Muggings, pickpocketing, phones snatched from your hand. These are the everyday crimes that erode public confidence and create a climate of fear. In the more recent past, shoplifting has also gone through the roof. One source reported a 43.9% year-over-year increase. Businesses are being hammered, staff are being put at risk, and the overall crime rate? It's going up, not down, with one source putting it at 132.6 crimes per 1,000 people for 2024-25. This is the reality for millions of Londoners. While the mayor focuses on a narrow set of data, a tsunami of other crimes is washing over the city. Violence against the person up 40% since 2015. Sexual offences up 75%. Drug trafficking incidents increasing by 94% in a single year. These are not minor fluctuations. These are systemic failures. These are the facts that paint a portrait of a city losing control. To ignore these figures is not just misleading. It is a dereliction of duty to the people who live and work here. So, why are you hearing two completely different stories? It's a good question. The answer lies in the murky world of crime statistics. It's a maze of different dates, different definitions, different methods. First, the timeline is everything. A politician can claim crime is down by comparing today's figures to a particularly bad year in the past. Meanwhile, a critic can show crime is up by comparing it to a safer year. Looking at a single year-on-year change, as with the 44% jump in shoplifting, tells one story. Looking at a 10-year trend, like the fall in homicides, tells another. Both can be factually correct, but both are incomplete. Second, what is actually being counted? This is crucial. Police recorded crime figures only count what is reported to them. If public trust in the police is low, people may not bother reporting certain crimes. This can make the numbers look artificially good. Then you have victim surveys like those from the ONS. These ask people directly if they have been a victim of crime, whether they reported it or not. These two sources can, and often do, paint very different pictures of the same reality. One source can show a rise while another shows a fall, simply because they are measuring different things. One source can show a rise while another shows a fall, simply because they are measuring different things. Third, definitions matter. What counts as violent crime? Some reports, like the one from the mayor's office, specifically look at violent crime with injury. This is a very specific category. It excludes a huge number of violent acts, such as threats or violence, without a physical injury being recorded. An opinion piece might use the broader violence against the person category, which has surged by 40% since 2015. Both are using official data. But by choosing a different definition, they arrive at opposite conclusions. This is how the truth gets twisted and lost in the fog. This is why you see such a confusing mess of information. It allows for any narrative to be constructed. The mayor's office can point to falling homicides. Critics can point to soaring knife crime. Both are using real numbers. For example, one source states, London's knife crime rate is 188 per 100,000 people, more than double the national average. Another states London's overall violent crime rate is lower than the national average. It's a chaotic and contradictory state of affairs that leaves the public confused and cynical. It creates a vacuum of trust where nobody knows what to believe. The claim is often made, usually in anger and frustration, that London has become the crime capital of Europe, a lawless Wild West. But is it true? When we look at comparative data, the answer is a firm no. This is one area where the fear might be greater than the reality. According to one recent study based on citizen perception surveys, the most dangerous city in Europe is actually Bradford. In fact, 3 of the top 5 most dangerous cities in that ranking were in the UK. Coventry, Birmingham. London was nowhere near the top of that particular list. This doesn't mean London has no problems. Of course it does. But context is important. The mayor's office is quick to point out that London's homicide rate is lower than in Paris, Brussels, Berlin. This is a key talking point for them. It suggests that when it comes to the most serious crime of all, London is performing better than many of its European peers. This is an important fact to consider, even as we rightly condemn the levels of violence we still see on our streets. The situation is bad, but the worst in Europe label does not appear to be supported by the evidence. However, we must be careful with these international comparisons. Crime is recorded differently in different countries. Cultural attitudes to reporting crime vary enormously. A crime index based on public perception, like the one that ranked Bradford as number 1, is really a measure of how safe people feel. It's not necessarily a direct measure of how many crimes are being committed. London is a global media hub. Every tragedy that happens here is broadcast to the world, which can massively influence the perception of safety, both for residents and for outsiders looking in. So, while London is not Europe's crime hotspot, according to the data, this is cold comfort. It doesn't excuse the horrific rise in knife crime. It doesn't make the victims of sexual assault feel any safer. It doesn't help the shopkeeper whose store is repeatedly robbed. Saying we're not the worst is a terribly low bar for a city like London to aim for. The goal should not be to be slightly safer than Paris, or Rome. The goal should be to be a city where every single citizen feels safe and secure day and night. On that measure, there is still a colossal amount of work to be done. So, where does this leave us? We've navigated the maze of statistics, we've listened to the official spin.